President Trump firing acting Attorney General Sally Yates, who defied him by refusing to enforce his travel ban. Our next guest believes the travel ban is dangerous. Independent Senator Angus King tweeted, "Unfortunately, President Trump has taken the bait, and the fight against ISIS just got a lot harder." Senator King is a member of the Senate Intelligence and Armed Services Committee. He joins us now. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Allison.
President Trump says the travel ban will make America safer. Why do you disagree?
It'll make America much more dangerous. I think, Allison, this is probably the worst foreign policy decision since the invasion of Iraq. What it's done is played right into ISIS's hands. I've spent probably 50–60% of my time around here on foreign policy and on terrorism, both on intelligence and armed services. They want us to turn this into a war of the West against Islam. They have explicitly said they want to drive a wedge between peaceful, nonviolent Muslims and the West, particularly America. We just played right into their hands. Over the weekend, there were all kinds of excited communications from ISIS about what a great thing Donald Trump had done for them. And we've got troops in Iraq fighting alongside Muslim troops. And what does it do to that situation? What kind of danger does it raise? There are 1.6 billion Muslims in the world, and we don't want a war with all of them. We don't need a war with all of them. We're not opposed to all of them. There's a relatively small group, but this blunderbuss approach that this ban represents is a signal to those people in the country and out of the country that we don't want them, we don't want to deal with them. And then the final piece is on intelligence. A great deal of the intelligence that we get about terrorism here and abroad comes from Muslims, comes from people within the Muslim community who say there's something going awry here. That's where the tips come from. And something like this just makes it harder for those people to have confidence in our government. It's a disaster from the point of view of national security, and it's also a disaster from the point of view of how they did it. They didn't consult with Homeland Security. They didn't consult with their new Secretary of Defense, their new Secretary of Homeland Security. It didn't consult with the Justice Department. This was done in the dark of night at the White House, no consultation with anybody, and terrible process, terrible results.
So, Senator, you feel very strongly about this. What can you do about it?
Well, I think, you know, we can talk about it, we can look at it, we can hold hearings, we can call people to account. For me, it sort of settled my mind over the weekend on two appointments. One, I'm going to vote for Rex Tillerson in spite of some significant reservations about ExxonMobil and about his ties to Russia, because I think he'll give the president the kind of independent advice that he needs. And he's a guy that doesn't need the job. I suspect right now he probably wonders if he wants the job, but I think he will be an independent voice. I've decided, on the other hand, not to vote for Jeff Sessions as Attorney General for sort of the opposite reasons. And I like Jeff. He's a friend. I've worked with him here. We really have gotten along very well. But I'm not voting to confirm a friend. I'm voting to confirm somebody who I think has to stand up to the president and say, this is wrong. Just like that clip you played earlier today. The question is, how will Jeff answer that question? And I'm just in my gut, because of his relationship with Mr. Trump and his history, I'm just not sure he would give the kind of independent advice that this president desperately needs.
Do you think that Jeff Sessions' nomination is in danger?
I don't, because I don't think any of his Republican colleagues are going to vote against him, and they have the votes. They have 52 votes. Now, there may be some who are privately thinking about this and uncomfortable about it, but I'd be very surprised. I mean, I'm giving you a prediction here. I'd be very surprised if any of those votes changed. And this is one of the most difficult ones that I've had to deal with on this series of nominations. But in the end, as I say, I think the crucial, in this particular case, where this president, he listens to a very narrow group of people, and as we've learned this weekend, can make some very bad decisions. I think we need to get some people around him as quickly as possible who can rein in those impulses like what we saw this weekend.
Well, look, the White House says that Sally Yates was weak on border security and she was weak on immigration. And if she's not going to carry out the president's executive orders, then she has no business being in the Justice Department under President Trump. I mean, that's what Senator Sessions will say as well. If you don't share the president's worldview, you start to hear the White House saying this, then maybe you shouldn't be there.
Well, Sally Yates, she did what she thought was right. The president has a right to do what he did. I don't question that. But I question whether, I mean, at some point as a leader, you have to learn to listen to people who may not agree with you, who may not affirm what you want to do. And if you don't do that, you're going to make some big mistakes, which I think was made on Friday. So, sure, he has a right to pick people. I'm a former governor. I wanted to pick my cabinet and people that I want to work with, but I think there are some outside limits. And in this case, you know, we've never, as everybody keeps saying, we've never experienced anything like this. And the fact that they did this order without consultation, as near as I can tell, I mean, there may have been some behind the scenes, but as near as I can tell, nobody in Congress, Republicans or Democrats, nobody at the Justice Department, Homeland Security, State Department, Defense Department had input to this. And that's a terrible way to make a decision that I believe can impact negatively this country for generations.
Senator, before we let you go, I just want to get your take on the possible Supreme Court nominees that Mr. Trump will be announcing. He'll be choosing one of them tonight in prime time, 8 p.m. So here are, according to our CNN reporting, here are the top two contenders. We have Judge Gorsuch and we have Judge Hardiman. Interestingly, President Trump's sister sits on the court with Judge Hardiman. We understand that she knows him and likes him. Who do you think Mr. Trump will be naming tonight?
I have no idea. I'm going to do what I've done throughout this process. I'm going to listen to the hearings. I will probably go to the Judiciary Committee hearings, even though I'm not a member. I did that with Rex Tillerson and Jeff Sessions, for example. I'm going to listen. I don't know these two gentlemen. I don't know their judicial temperament and record. And I'm going to make an independent judgment based upon whether I believe they're going to interpret the law according to the Constitution and existing law, and not try to make law. That's my criteria.
Senator Angus King, thank you very much for being on New Day.
Thank you.